So thank you. We go on with the program, and then we go to the global perspective. Do we have Paul Lu online? So we are going to hear from Paul Lu. He's the Executive Secretary. Great to see you, Paul. Executive Secretary of the 4 per Mil initiative. And he's going to tell us reflections from the global perspective. And Paul, today you're going to be in France. You are not with us here in Finland. But maybe actually in about 1 year time, you will be in Finland, hopefully. We are going to host a big conference in 1 year time here in Finland. So at least then we will see face to face.
Yes. I hope to be able to come, and I will definitely. It's on my agenda. But yeah, it's true that this time I'm online again. We're used to be online for 2 years now, but being in presential is very important.
That's true. But great, Paul, to have you online. And please, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen and try to go with my presentation. I hope you can see my screen. Yes, I can see that you can see it. Okay. So just I will start to recall a little bit about what is the 4 per Mil initiative very shortly. This comes from a very basic calculation telling us that if we can store 0.4% of carbon in all the soil of the planet, then we could theoretically offset the net fluxes of carbon released in the atmosphere by the human activity. So that's really very basic calculation. So 0.4% is 4 per mil, and it gives us the hope that we can do something using the soil, and that's the main purpose of the name of this. So the goal of the initiative is to store carbon in the soil, to increase food security, to adapt agriculture to climate change already going on, and increase food security. So all of that pursuing the Sustainable Development Goals, and you have the 6 of the goals that are addressed by our initiative. Our initiative started to be a small one, led by France. It was launched in 2015 with 160 partners. Nowadays, we have 721 partners who join us, and among them, roughly half are members. That means they can contribute to the processing of the decision making. And our chair is Stéphane Le Foll, previous Minister of Agriculture in France. And we have 2 vice chair, Gabriel Bastien from Canada and Ibrahim Mayaki from Niger. Here is a very quick overview of where are all our partners all around the world that allow us to say that we are an international initiative. 2 years ago, we work on the validation of a strategic plan will give us our vision, our mission for the future. And the vision of the 4 per Mil initiative is a worldwide healthy and carbon-rich soil to combat climate change and hunger, which is quite a large vision, but it's a very important one. And sorry, I would say that in this year, 2022, soil health, which is at the basis of all action, should be one of the major subjects of the 3 main conventions that are meeting through their COP this year. That means the Desertification Convention, the Biodiversity Convention, and the Climate Change Convention. And we are advocating for the fact that those big conventions take soil health and carbon sequestration at the basis of their action from this year. Coming back to the subject of our webinar, I just would like to start by something which is obvious for most of us, but it's always good to say it again. So the compensation phenomenon is a compensation that can start at the level of the enterprise, that can start by reducing emission, which is very important, and reducing emission also at the level of the whole value chain of an enterprise. And the compensation at the end, it's how we can remove CO2 from the atmosphere using projects, so like storing carbon in the soil, outside the value chain of the enterprise by financing projects. So this is very important, but enterprise should not only compensate outside, but should start by doing things inside the enterprise. So with minimizing their own emission, working on all the value chain, and then they can go outside to make some for compensation. Another important part is the fact that in the Paris Agreement, discussed and validated in 2015 at the COP21 in Paris, unfortunately, the Article 6 was not completely negotiated. Even though there was some very good progress in that direction in Glasgow during the last COP of the UNFCCC, the Article 6 is really the article important to supervise the cooperation mechanism between all actors that could be the base for the voluntary market. So the Article 6 is divided in three approaches. One is the cooperative approach, then you can discuss about the mitigation result in order to help each other for the NDCs. But there also a large part for the mitigation contribution approach, which is the mechanism allowing private and public actors to participate to the reduction effort of countries by financing projects. That's what we are talking about. And finally, the non-market approach, which is collaboration to help each other to achieve the goals. And so if we look at the three main mechanisms, what we are talking about with compensation is really at the center, what I put in red, so the mechanism for the contribution. And this part is not yet finished to be negotiated. So we are missing, in fact, some very important things, which is the legal basis, the international legal basis that could allow us to go forward. So we need to be cautious. It doesn't mean that we cannot do anything, just need to be cautious not to take some commitment that could not be fulfilled in the future, and at the level of the enterprise being also reasonable on the price they can provide to the farmers to compensate. Coming back to the global level, there are three ways, in fact, to fight climate change, food insecurity, and increase the biodiversity. Very quickly, the first thing is just try to conserve all the areas that are not untouched by the human activities, and concerning what we call the hotspot on biodiversity, but also the hotspot on places where carbon content in the soil naturally is very high, like peatlands, like all the permafrost and some other place like that, very important. So please do not touch those areas, protect them. The second way is more difficult, which is the fact that some of the area already worked by the men are not so productive on the agricultural way, for instance, but they present a very high potential for protecting biodiversity and for increasing carbon in the soil. So if we could restore those ecosystems, let them come back to the natural way, then we could avoid a big part of the losses of biodiversity, something like 60% of the expected extension, and we could sequester 300 gigaton of carbon in those places. But it's very difficult because, as you can see in the red on this map, these are also the places where agriculture is very well developed and very important for the people who are living on those lands. Finally, the third way to go in that direction is to increase the quantity of carbon in the soil that are under agriculture. And of course, we can start by the most promising one, the one with the highest potential of sequestration, but of course, we can start that everywhere. And that's the direction that the FOPEMIL would like to people to follow. So I will not be long on this one because you all know why is it so important to store carbon in the soil. So to mitigate climate change, of course, to adapt to climate change. This is very important because the soil will be able to retain water more and also to be able to be less sensitive to erosion. So on that sketch, I just try to explain that when you start agriculture on the land, you will go in the red part if you don't care. And if you adopt new management practices, then you could come back on the pink and then green area, increasing the quantity of carbon in your soil. That's what we expect to do. To do that, if you look at what the society is calling us to do, is to use less mineral fertilizer and phytosanitary product in one hand, while maintaining the biodiversity or increasing it and improving soil organic carbon. Of course, trying to have the same level of food production for the world people to be able to eat. That's food security aspect. But with the conventional agriculture, we are there on the bottom left of my sketch. And we would like to get inspiration in the nature, get inspiration in the natural forestry ecosystem, the most complex one. And if we want to do that, we need to use a vector which is called agroecology. And by chance, agroecology is composed of many agriculture that are already existing, but need to be just developed in some aspects, like conservation agriculture, organic or regenerative agriculture, and allow the farmers to follow their own way and choose what category of agriculture they would like to develop. If you take the example of conservation agriculture, then it's very simple, three main subjects. First of all, minimum disturbance of the soil, no tillage or minimum tillage, direct sowing, and and very light fertilizer placement. Then the permanent soil organic cover with residue or with cover crops, and finally a very large rotation of crops to allow not to have the same crops on the same place 2 years in a row. That's very important. It's an example of what could be done, but of course there are so many other examples like agroforestry, regenerative agriculture, and so on. But the state to scale up for some pilot project need to be followed, and we need to work. When I said we, it means international organization, it means governments, it means farmers organization, scientific institution, business, NGOs, need to follow a little bit all those steps, be sure that we sensibilize the farmers to what to do, and the consumer detect the good practices to be developed, ensure the knowledge transfer, accompanying the transition, framing the whole environment. This is business of the government, monitoring, reporting, verification, follow up what's going on, financing all this transition, which is important because the farmers will take risk, and adapt the rule of carbon accounting, because we need all of the actors need to share the benefits of this. And of course, we need to have an inclusive system of governance. If I would like to summarize all of what I said and bring some key message to our workshop today, I would say that, first of all, the compensation should be seen as the last possible mechanism a business could consider to reduce its impact on climate. This is very important, and all the approach developed by Net Zero Initiative is very constructive in our sense. The second point is that we're still missing the complete international mechanism in order to ensure all aspects of the compensation. This will arrive soon, I hope at the next COP in Sharm el-Sheikh, but as you know, international organization and discussion may take long. Finally, the soil carbon sequestration is one of the most powerful tools as it improves soil health with multiple benefits, and we need to privilege that nature-based solution as it is written in the IPCC report, the last one. And so we are at our small level, the 4.0 initiative. We'll launch last Monday the virtual fair of the 4.0 on our collaborative platform during the EU Green Week. It will last, in fact, 2 months for us. We will organize various events, regional events, then thematic events. So please go on our website if you want to get more information, and then to participate. And Baltic Sea Action Group is very active on the platform, and we use very often them as a demonstrative what we could do there. And finally, as Laura just said in introduction, we will have next year in June the first Northern Europe 4.0 regional meeting, and definitely I will be there. So you have the link there if you want to get more information, but we are very proud to be able to associate to Baltic Sea Action Group and the Finnish Ministry of Agriculture to develop this project. And I hope that we will see you there in person in 1 year. Thank you very much, Laura. The floor is back to you.
So much, Paul, for the very clear presentation and for the kind words for our foundation. Thank you. That was really nice. And I think it was very nicely you showed how important the multi-benefits are, and then that we all need to take action. And I'm sure in the discussion we can continue about the different farming practices, as we do have farmers, some of our speakers, and then in the audience. So I think that's one topic we for sure can continue in the discussion. So thank you so much, Paul, and we will continue with you in the discussion part. So then we have time to discuss more together. But warm thank you.